The graph shown here is a velocity time graph. Note, when you say velocity against time, velocity is on the y-axis, time is on the x-axis. Y-axis is the vertical, and the x-axis is the horizontal. Also note that when we talk about velocity time graph, in short we call it the VT graph. So you're going to see this phrase commonly used throughout this lesson. And recall that in science we try to keep things simple. So we don't write the whole word velocity, but we write it in symbol. So over here, let me enlarge it, is V slash meter per second. And this actually, V refers to velocity, meter per second refers to the unit. Sorry, I shouldn't say it's velocity. The symbol for velocity. And on the other end, on the horizontal axis, this, I'll enlarge it for you, small t slash s. And this stands for second, and t is actually the symbol for time. Alright, so this is the basic description of how you label the axis. Note that in graph, labeling the axis with the corresponding unit where applicable is very important. And in a theory paper, you need the labeling to know what kind of graph you're dealing with. Now, if you look at the shape of this velocity time graph, you find that it's very similar to the earlier graph which you had. That's a displacement time graph. And that's why I say the labeling is very important, because well, gradient for displacement time graph is actually the velocity. But the velocity for this, the gradient for velocity time graph is actually the acceleration. Should we talk more about it later? So for now, let's go into how to read this graph. Let me erase unnecessary things. Now, how do you read this graph? Okay. First, locate the time. Right? Let's say I have time at 2. Time at 2 seconds. So at time equals 2 seconds. Okay. Correspondingly, what's my velocity? My velocity is 1 meter per second. So at time equals 2 seconds, velocity equals 1 meter per second. Right? Now let's go look for another timing. Let's say at time equals 3 seconds. Sorry, not possible. Say at time equals 4 seconds. What's my velocity? So at time equals 4 seconds, my velocity will be at time equals 4, my velocity will be 2 meters per second. So that's how you read off the graph. Right, we'll delve more into that later on.